Not quite true. I've got a meeting with the minister that I have to go to. The thing about being a civil servant is that it's the servant bit really does matter. So it's a bit of a three-line whip about quite an important issue that I need to be there for. But I will at some point. I do meet with her frequently, and we just have ad hoc catch-ups. I will talk to her about this because I know that she, Helen Whately, as the Minister for Care, is actually interested in what we're talking about today and how you do improve things. And like me, she's an absolute passionate advocate for the workforce too. It's been a great morning. It's great to be around like-minded people always, and to actually be in a room with people and to reflect and think. And I think that's one of the great things about this, is it just sparks all sorts of ideas. So Jackie, who I've known a long time, and I are planning to meet in the new year to talk about how we can take some of this forward, because it's about, great when we're in rooms like this. There's lots of people who are passionate, but how do you get other people to be inspired and take this? So I'll talk a bit about some of that too. And I was also struck by Ali's comments this morning, a personal reflection about staying in a hotel with people that irritate you. And I just thought, I'm going to be a nightmare if I turn up in a care home, because I'm very judgmental when I sit back on a terrace having a drink and watching everybody else. So it was a very interesting moment. So I'm going to just talk, like I said, I'm going to talk through this quite quickly about what I've been doing. So I've been in post for about 2.5 years now. I came in the second part of COVID, and so that was pretty much consumed with life in 2021. And since that, I was made substantive that September and taking things forward. And one of the things that I felt very strongly about, this is the first time anybody's ever held this position, is that research has to, and that evidence base that we've talked about today, has to underpin the future. Social care nursing research is just getting off the starting blocks. It's very important because you and I both know that evidence numbers talk to politicians. So I think it's an absolute critical investment that we put some real effort into this. So it's been one of my priorities since I've been in post. Now, is this going to work, or is somebody going to do the slides? Right, so just to put in a bit of context just quickly, is that we've got a workforce of about 1.6 million people in social care. 33,000 of that are actually registrants, the rest are actually care workers. So there are 1.6 million people that we can potentially both use as part of our research, but also as 1.6 million workforce. It's bigger than the NHS, who can be consumers of research, and that really changes people's experience of care and the outcome. So absolutely important, but it's a very complex kind of world that we work in. It's about community care as well as care homes. It's working across multiplicity of local authorities. It's not a cohesive area to practice. It's massively challenging, the context in which we work. And I think it's important to say that, because just that simple thing, and a bit of what Jackie and I were talking about at lunchtime, is that even the simple communication, how do you get to all those people? There isn't a single kind of way of doing that. So the critical is the kind of partnerships that we build and develop to take this work forward. And I think, we're talking about care homes today. I think we must remember that our people working in domiciliary care and other settings are equally important and great opportunities for us to actually develop that research agenda. So we've talked about, lots of people have mentioned NIHR, but just thinking about colleagues who are joining internationally, we're talking about, since 2006, £200 million has gone into social care research. It's a huge amount of money. And the NIHR is a critical partner for us. They are, we meet in various kind of research groups and that, but they are our kind of national body. And I think it's important just to contextualise that for people who are joining us internationally. They are the drivers of change. In terms of nursing, Professor Ruth Endicott is the lead for nursing at HCR on there. And Ruth is an ITU nurse, but an incredible convert to social care. She is a passionate advocate, and it's through both her and Professor Alison Richardson from Southampton, who works in Ruth May, who's the chief nurse of the NHS's team, have become absolute stoic passionate advocates for social care nursing. And I think it's a real accolade to Ruth, really, that coming from that very acute environment, she absolutely gets it, and has been the driver internally for us in social care to appoint Zena, who's asked a few questions today, as the first social care nursing research fellow, who's doing some amazing work, has only been in post a matter of months, but to scope out what the potential is to develop a ring-fenced and funded research social care nursing research program. And I think that's absolutely critical to how we actually move this agenda forward, because they are our main funders, and developing that expertise. And actually, it's different in social care for all the reasons I've just said. So actually having that person who can lead and take this forward is really important in our mission to embed social care research into social care nursing. And I think that some of the work that Ruth and I have talked about is like creating internships, giving people that flavour. Somebody came up to me at lunchtime and said, can I talk to you at some point about the opportunities for being a clinically based researcher, thinking about scholarships, thinking about PhDs. I've got several nurses at the moment who are really interested in doing PhDs. So how can they actually access funding? And I think for social care compared to NHS nursing colleagues have not had that opportunity and that exposure previously. So it is absolutely critical taking that forward. One of the other things that Ruth Endicott, Alison and I held a round table that I chaired about 18 months ago, and we said, right, so how are we going to make this happen? And one of the things that we have done is develop through the Wessex ARC a series of CRED talks, so looking at care, research, education, and that kind of discussion and debate around research. And there's been a series of webinars, and we're continuing with those through 2024, planning those at the moment. So we've had topics like end-of-life care. So it's all about clinical research that really matters to people at the frontline of services, encouraging our frontline staff to come and join that. Because one of the things I know, having worked in a research job quite a long time ago in my career, is actually how do you get people to be consumers? How do you make those really academic papers mean something to people on the ground that really make a difference to clinical care? So I was really interested to hear the work that's been going on around dentistry and mouth care, because it makes such a difference to people's lives and the quality of lives that they live every day. So we'll pick up on that. So the sort of things you've done, continence, end-of-life care, the things that really matter to people. So anybody who wants to come and join that and present, you'd be very welcome, and I can link you up with the right people. I think Nuno would be happy to be the contact for me in that. I'll put my email up at the end of this. So there was a nursing strategic plan in 2021 for England, and very much driven by NHS colleagues, but actually opportunities in that. Ruth May is the chief nurse of the NHS, and I do work together and part of her team. So looking at putting research at the heart of practice. I've been doing this for a very long time, so I've heard some of this many times in my career, but I'm somebody who I prefer to do things and talk about it. So, that's why things like the CRED talks, how do you actually make it happen and accessible for people? We're talking about sustainably supported careers. Often there's funding, as many of you will know, funding for short-term things, and then they go away. So how do you develop that kind of that continuity and that opportunity for real careers for people in clinical practice as well as being in those academic higher education institutions? Very much people-centred. Let's talk and let's look at the things that matter to people at the front line of services and the people in receipt of services, because ultimately that's what this is all about. Releasing this research potential in people, looking at the digital capacity as a priority, and like I say, it includes social care nursing. And I think that, and I describe this as social, that care homes in particular, because they're easy and defined walls as we're in at the moment, are actually like nursing laboratories. There is so much potential and so much untapped potential, I think, for nursing research. And they are, they're essentially nurse-led units, so we should be investing in them, and we should be actually developing that capacity and capability in our workforce to actually lead on that. During COVID, and that needs no introduction to any of us, the huge challenges that pose. One of the most exciting things that, in terms of research that came out of that, was something called the VIVALDI study led by Professor Laura Shallcross at UCL, and that was looking at the impact of IPC, so looking at vaccines, the interventions, a range of interventions, and how it impacted on people living in care homes and indeed the staff. And I think through that most challenging time that none of us want to live through again is the fact that care home staff stepped up and did that in addition to all the pressure that they were under is absolutely outstanding. And it was so remarkable that they were able to embrace that and make that happen. And as a result of that, and those people who were the pioneers in that research and the lessons that have been learned from it, has resulted in a kind of continuation of that work. And what else can we do? Now we've established that methodology in terms of actually developing further models of research and opportunity to use the data. And again, we've talked about data, people talked about data this morning. Data's fantastic, only if you use it. So actually, how can we make sure, and how can you make sure that those people at the front line who participate in research actually see the benefit of what they're doing? So I think it's been an absolute incredible piece of work, and the fact that that has been sustained beyond it, and the keenness of those who participate, and now additional care homes who want to join that work, I think is absolutely remarkable, and it's in real time, and it's encouraging and engaging people in a way that I don't think we would have seen had it not been for that absolutely terrible period that we all lived through. So why I think nursing research is essential to social care is that it builds the critical evidence for future workforce. I think it's, our workforce is our greatest asset. We haven't got enough people. How do we get more? How do we learn from the people who work with us today about what's good about working in social care, and how do we develop that, that kind of sense of belonging for the future? I think it's absolutely critical. We have to come up with different ideas and different ways of doing things. And we need to build a profile that creates a buzz of nursing. I think that's the other thing. It's how do you get people excited about research? For those in the room who clearly are, and that's why we're all here today, but how do you make that exciting? And I think that's got to be that actually you have to get those frontline people to help define the research question and be part of that solution about how you develop methodology, the whole lot of it, and actually that, like I said, that feedback loop into real time, real practice is absolutely critical. It's, I think there's this opportunity about nursing opportunity, clinical leadership, management, all of those things happen in social care, and there's, many other aspects of it. So there's loads of things that we can be doing. And I think that some of that stuff around leadership, how do we kind of look at the roles that we have in social care? How can we make those create that evidence base, actually entice people to come and work into social care? Like I say, these are nurse-led services, and I just don't think we've got the right kind of evidence base around that. I think we need to be able to really ground that into reality. And I think there's different pressures, but different opportunities in social care. It's, everybody's understaffed. I was just talking to Rowan, the NHS has got massive challenges, social care's got massive challenges, but there's different opportunities in that, and I think Vivaldi actually illustrates that even in the most challenging of times, you can make things happen. And like I say, I think these care homes are nursing laboratories, and it's where nurse-led care takes place. So these are absolutely sitting there ready and ripe for change. So I think there's masses of opportunity, masses of possibility, and I think that one of the things for me that's critical is that how we collectively come together to create that energy, not just in a room like this, but for absolutely everybody. Week before last, we appointed the first Professor of Social Care Nursing, and I have to thank the RCN Foundation. They have been absolutely phenomenal in funding this. Salford University are going to host that advert's out at the moment, and alongside that, they've funded a research assistant. So there's a big investment for them over the next 5 years. There was a huge amount of interest in that post, and I think it kind of probably indicates that this is an area that people are getting excited about. I've talked about the CRED talks, commissioning research around the workforce, etc., is really important. And I think we're kind of starting to shape a kind of, like I say, possibilities for the future. And those are my contact details. Thank you. I'm going.